I'm Pete Webb. I work on the festival committee. I'm going to introduce Mark and Sarah from Roughacre, and just want to let you know how I first came to hear about Roughacre Brewery. So I've been working for 6 years on the committee, and I've worked on the cellar team, and more recently been involved in beer selection. Along with CAMRA, I have a passion for local breweries, and we're quite lucky in Cambridge in that we have 26 breweries, 5 or 6 of which have in the last 2 or 3 years that are all new. Roughacre first came to my attention about 18 months ago. We normally look around for what beers we're going to have on at the beer festival in January. So before then, I was made aware of a new local brewery that was supplying beer in a very local area around Castle Camps in bottles and some casks to local pubs. So when we came to look for beer festival stuff for May, we asked them what they had, offered us 7 different beers, of which we took 3, a golden, a ruby mild and a coffee porter, all of which sold really well. And then in the Winterfest, we had a porter and a winter warmer with the same result. So I'll hand you over now to Mark and Sarah, and they'll discuss the brewery and the beers that they have, and including something very special that would have been for CBF 47, which we can taste later on. Okay, over to you guys.
Hi there. Hi, Pete. Yeah. Well, it's great to be here. I wish it was the real festival, but you know, we're making the most of it. And thanks for inviting us along to have a chat with you and to show you our humble brewery. And yeah, just to talk about our beers a little bit.
A few of which behind us.
Yeah, beautiful display set up by Sarah earlier, and yeah, so we've been brewing since March 2018, and it's been getting bigger and bigger. We started off just doing bottles, mainly to corporates in Cambridge, and yeah, then we started to push out to some of the local pubs who obviously required casks. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we've done that, and now we basically do more casks than anything else. And it's been going well up until obviously the inevitable crisis. And now we've changed the business a little bit, adapted so that we're doing deliveries to people's homes and things like that, door to door, and also supplying pubs and outlets that are able to sell to the public through takeout and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's still ticking along, and yeah,
it's been busy.
Isn't too bad. It's been busy, yeah.
It's a lot of work. I mean, obviously, because you're distributing directly to people rather than through pubs, so it's a lot more effort for to cover that amount of distance. And because you guys got our name out into Cambridge, we end up delivering all the way up into North Cambridge and on the Ron. So we're in Duxford today, and off to the west, and yeah, so growing.
Yeah. Thanks for that. It has helped actually, and we've seen that in the increase in Facebook followers and things like that. So yeah, it's been great that you've partnered with us in this way.
Yeah, it makes a lot of difference.
It does, yeah.
So we send out sample packs.
Yes, so that was one of the things we wanted to do in conjunction with the festival, was to put together little 6-bottle sampler packs, 2 different variations. One with more of our modern style beers, more sort of American and New World hops, more pale ales, and then a pack that was more concentrating on more traditional styles, such as mild and darker beers with more traditional English hops, and they seem to sell pretty much equally.
The mild was a shocker actually. It was really, really popular. There's a definite group of people who are really into that sort of beer, and they were really pleased to see a mild. So we've actually been asked for it. So we've done brews specifically because people have been asking us for the mild. So that's been nice to see and hear about.
It's interesting, really, because it's been such an old-fashioned beer, but it seems to be having a bit of a resurgence. I've noticed over the last couple of years.
This is the Roughacre Red, isn't it?
Roughacre Red, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, I can say, because I work on the bar that was selling that beer. When we first had it on the festival, that sold really well. It went really, And you know, mild is it's supposed to be mild in May is a camera thing, and although it's tends to be quite hot when it comes out, but it just, you know, people are getting more and more into mild beers, and it's an easy beer to get into because it's quite sweet, and you know, not so much bitterness, which people can't get on with sometimes. So yeah, good introduction.
So it's just funny. Well, it's funny you bring up the bitterness thing, because we were just I was just having a conversation with one of the people we do home deliveries to, who we do a mix box. So he had a mix box of our range, and he's a biologist, a retired biologist, and he was talking about the bitterness on the tongue and how people have this incredible reaction, you know, one end of a scale and the other end of the scale, kind of like, I guess, people who eat chilies and hot food. And so his response to our hoppy stuff was kind of, he said, wow, I found that really intensely hoppy. And we were thinking, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then he was describing, you know, the studies he's done on people to prove kind of, and you can train your taste buds, which is where I think things have got hoppier and hoppier and hoppier in the past few years, is people's taste buds have become used to it and they just want that little bit more, little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? When this American craft ale started to seep into in our direction, and I remember having the first, was this Sierra Nevada or some one of those beers. It was particularly hoppy, and obviously dry hopped, you know, to beyond the point of recognition. And I didn't like it, to be honest. The first time I tried it, it just tasted all kinds of wrong. But it's strange how things change. And now, if a beer personally doesn't have that kind of punch, it's not for me.
Funny, yeah. I really think it's like how you get into Encona and Tabasco, and then it just all goes crazy because you just become used to it.
Yeah.
But we had a discussion about hopping, because the different approaches to it. Because when we were starting to experiment more with it, I was, being a layman, complaining to Mark about how I felt the bitter was too much on the side of the tongue, which actually I don't like that reaction. Personally, I don't like that reaction. There's something about it, and you don't get the full flavours of the hops either. So we were talking about how to investigate ways in which you can apply hops during the brew. Yeah. And so we made some changes, which Mark can talk about more than I can, but basically presented beers where I was saying, oh, we're getting top tongue bittering, which is where you can really taste the flavour of the hops. And he laughs. But,
I know what you mean, though. I know exactly what you're talking about. Basically, it's the whole to do with when in the boil process you put the hops in, obviously. So, you know, I think as a beginner brewer, I was weighting it way too heavily at the beginning for most people's modern tastes. So they were like traditional bitters, but they were quite heavy on that front. Whereas obviously, more modern craft beers tend to be weighted towards the end, so you get more aroma, you get more of that flavour without the deep bitterness that a lot of people find too much. So we have adapted quite a lot of our recipes over the last couple of years to be a little bit more on the aroma, a little bit less on the harsh bitter, because it's not as refreshing. So Zestival's a good option.
Perfect example. Yeah.
We changed that recipe completely. So
I think Zestival was one of the other beers that was on at the festival at the same time as the golden one. I said, yeah. So just going back to the beginning, I mean, how did you first get into this, and where were you supplying to start with?
Well, first of all, we had it was actually through you, wasn't it? We had an interesting connection with a couple of guys in Cambridge who wanted to start up, or had actually started up, a little company called Cambridge Craft Beer Company. They'd just lost their brewer, unfortunately, who, due to the fact that they had another job which was taking priority, and so they were looking for a brewer. Sarah was working with them on a different side of things, on web development and graphic design, and they just mentioned it in passing that they were looking for a brewer. I'd been brewing a serious home brewer, I'd say, for quite a long time, and when Sarah mentioned it to them that I could possibly be someone who would fit, we met up and got on well, and I started brewing as the brewer for Cambridge Craft Beer Company, and that's how we got into it, just doing bottled beers for corporates. And since then, we sort of built our own brand, and because of course, well, they were all about corporates and corporate branding, whereas we were more trying to push out to pubs in casks and, you know, in that kind of form. And so it made more sense for us to then, you know, do two different ways. We still work with Cambridge Craft Beer Company, and I still brew for them and produce 330 milliliter bottled beers for them with their own recipes. But obviously we're now starting to push a little bit more into our own recipes and our own markets. So
well,
that's how it started.
Yeah, we don't do just pubs and casks, so our bottles go out to retailers. We've got a few small retailers around here, and it does really, really well. And we have a real following. You know, we actually get, you know, we get people phoning up and saying you weren't on the shelf. So you know, that's been good, and it's something that we want to continue to build. But we're very aware of the fact that we like having the opportunity to do a range of beers, which I think we would lose if the volume got too high. So
yeah, I mean, that's what
you're up to about 11 beers now, aren't you? Or is it now pushed to a dozen?
seasonal, some change, some come and go.
we have 11. Yeah, we do. I mean, on our website it lists 11 beers, but they're not really. I wouldn't call them our core beers because we have seasonal beers. The Zestival, although actually it's actually becoming quite popular now, we probably will do that year round, but that was initially just going to be our summer beer. And Camp's Comfort, which is our winter warmer, obviously we only have that in the winter season. So we have, most of the time we're producing at least 10, which is, it works for us at the moment because of the sort of systems that we're using to produce the beer. Because we use very small batch systems, we're, you know, one barrel brewery, we can actually afford to do, you know, 2 or 3 brew days a week and produce enough beer to keep the bottles rolling and have 10, 11 different types of beer at any one time. So it's quite rewarding in that respect, but it's a lot more effort. So we'd like to step it up at some point to 3 barrel brewery. That would be good enough for now.
I mean, we're not ready to say anything, but we're pretty close to knowing where we're going to be next to grow the brewery, and we're really, really excited because touch wood, who we're working with is incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
The space that we're looking at, they're really excited to have us move in there, and I think that makes a huge difference as well, is actually having a supported premises. We were talking about Mark's brewery, the other Mark. Moonshine, you know, and obviously he found his premises through a very supportive farmer who actually built out the space for him, and that's something that makes a lot of difference, because it's actually quite hard, apart from getting an industrial unit, to find a space that fits for that size. You don't want, you know, acres.
And we're looking for, you know, we had quite a specific idea in mind for what we wanted. We wanted a tap room, which, fingers crossed, it looks like we will be having with this new premises, and obviously a little bottle shop, so people can pop by and stock up and things like that, which is all part of what we wanted to move into. But it also, we wanted something that was a rural setting that felt a little bit more traditional, you know, so a converted barn, which it is, would be the ideal thing for us in the countryside. We didn't really want to go as practical as it is, sort of industrial estate, you know, converted warehouse. It's easier, and to be honest, it is probably more convenient, but we just felt the nature of our business and what we wanted to represent would work better in that sort of environment.
And also we're looking at the sustainability. You know, I know it's kind of becoming the thing that everybody says, but to us it is quite important. And we've got an opportunity here of looking at, you know, a cooling system that we can actually utilize within the environment in which it's built, and also being able to put our used materials into something, so it's easy to get the grain into feed, etc. But dealing with used yeast, dealing with hops, etc., that's a slightly different kettle of fish, and to have space to be able to actually get that turned into something else is useful. And, you know, poor Mark, he has me going on about the fact that we could feed the grain to these guys who make fantastic sausage, you know, to pigs, and then they make fantastic sausages, and just get this nice circular economy going.
Yeah.
So
it's a good idea. Yeah, there is local to where the brewery may be set up. If everything works, I don't want to say anything out of that just because if it falls through, I'll be so disappointed. But hopefully it won't. But there is a wild boar company. In fact, they call them wild boar company, and they inevitably have wild boar. And we've already chatted to them about providing them with our spent grain, and they're very excited about using it. And we would obviously sell their produce, their charcuterie, in our bottle shop / tap room. So it's all circular. Circle of life.
Would that lead on to some sort of fresh food offering if you had the tap room and food available?
well, we're thinking food,
Yes.
we definitely like to do food trucks.
Definitely. Yeah.
And bring them out more rurally, because we've done a few things with Waffle and Co. And Portable Pint. Portable Pint's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love Tony. And you get a huge reaction. So turning up at a place like Hadstock, who don't currently have a viable pub, that they get a great response, brings the community out, and that's something that we're very much aware of. Is even though the beer's great, people tend to go where the food is. So.
It helps, definitely. Yeah.
And and especially stuff that's different. And obviously, there's a lot of food carts around Cambridge that do fantastic stuff. So that's what we'd look to do. Becoming a restaurant, though, I don't think so. I think it's an interesting point about pubs and free houses. Is you can have free houses that are more foodie than beery, and we're trying to maintain the beer focus, obviously being brewery.
So if we weren't in the situation we're in now, other than the odd beer festival and online shopping, where else do people see your beer in cask? Maybe what pubs do you supply?
We're actually, we were starting to push out to more and more pubs just before this happened. Cambridge City itself was becoming a lot more receptive. So we had a couple of bottle shops that we were pushing out to, including Bacalania down on Mill Road. And then we had, the Elm Tree. Jess has been brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic.
She's put on loads of our, I think the Nighthawker's doing well.
They fell in love with the Nighthawker, yeah.
They've got coffee porter fans there, apparently.
Yeah,
so
I'm one of them, so yeah.
Smashing. Well, she's sold plenty of those for us, and then we had orders recently from Jethro for the Cambridge Blue and the Royal Standard.
Yeah. So we'll be in the takeouts for that, and we were working with Chris at Stapleford, the Three Horseshoes. So he took that over recently. He does sort of Greek style food, and he's really into the beer. We were going to have a tap takeover for 2 weekends ago.
Yeah. May Day was going to be our tap takeover, first one in a pub, but unfortunately, these things happen.
Yeah, but he's been really welcoming.
And of course, our local pub. In Castle Camps, we stock them regularly. They always have our bottles on. The Rose and Crown.
Hans has been amazing.
Hans was brilliant. Yeah, that's in Ashton. He has a beer on at the moment, again in takeout form. But yeah, so there's a lot of the little village pubs put us on, but we're, as I say, trying to push more into Cambridge so that you get us at more of the more established city pubs as well. That's what we're hoping for. So yeah, we'll see how that goes over the next few months.
Yeah, but our beers are always down at Case Solved in bottle form in Linton.
Yeah,
and he does kind of local deliveries. But it was I think it's interesting. I think for Mark and I talking about the size of the brewery, in fact, we want to be able to maintain it to a size where we can do that diversity of ales. It's also, you have to question, where do you want to go in terms of the how wide a region do you want to operate within? And I think at the moment our focus is very much kind of covering every layer, but in a small area. So every layer being, festivals, pubs, retailers, eateries, and even if the home deliveries continue, if people continue to say we'd like flagons, then we'll investigate being able to do that sustainably, but only within an area that we can support to a level of quality that we need to maintain.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah. So do we want to go through some of the beers now and have a look at what you got available? I mean, there'll be some people that have bought some packs you've delivered today that have some to hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you'd never ask. I'm parched. Right. Yes, absolutely. Didn't you want to make an announcement about our latest offering?
What, before people drink?
Yeah, just why not?
Okay.
No.
So I asked Mark, could he make a beer that I could actually drink during the week and not get a fuzzy head? And so, and I couldn't find anything on the shelf. I admit I began drinking Heineken Blue. So sorry. So he actually. Oh, you're going to cut us off?
That's it. Interview done.
And so he started trying to see how low he could go and maintain natural carbonisation and a good flavour. And so anyway, we started off with trying to achieve the saintly one, and we got the almost saintly one at 2.5%, and then we cracked it with the saintly one at 1.5%. So this is the beer that I think people underestimate when they see it on the shelf, because it says 1.5%, but it has fantastic flavour. And I'm not just saying that because I'm married to you. So
thanks.
Yeah, that's worth a go for a midweek drink.
It does
Anyway,
take a lot of skill. It does take a lot of skill to make a low ABV beer with flavour, and there are not many that are any good. I must admit I haven't tried that one yet, but I hope to. But that wasn't in the pack, though, was it?
No. We wanted just to do some more traditional, beers that have alcohol in. But no, I'm really happy with it. I was pleasantly surprised at just how malt, because you can obviously pack it for the hops, but it was the maltiness. I wanted to maintain a richness, but obviously without it being strong. And I think it's worked. So anyway.
Well, I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we start
the other
with?
biz.
So we did traditional pack and we did modern hop. There's crossover between the two, so apologies if you've got two boxes, because I have two of a couple of things. But we can either start with our classic All Saints. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Also, All Saints was our sort of flagship. That's what we sort of intended to be our flagship beer. I call it an Old English ale, but it's really sort of a traditional kind of tawny bitter, 5.8%. So it's fairly strong. After speaking to publicans, and then we're going, that's way too strong. Definitely our most popular cask ale at the moment, named after the Ashton, and the windmill is depicted on it. So
I could say it's a terrible way of getting into a pub. It's actually named beer after their village. But
yeah, it works. Thanks, Hans. But we can crack open an All Saint, because it's my personal favourite. And thank you very much.
And we've got our homage to all of the Cambridge beer festivals here. So.
Well, not all. That would be a lot of glasses, wouldn't it? A couple, but yes.
I've had a question from Ali Cook, and it's probably a question I want to put to you myself. Is can we have the low alcohol one in cask in May next year, 2021?
I'm sorry.
Someone's asked a question. Could we have the low alcohol one in a cask in May in 2021?
Really?
Right.
Okay.
I don't see why not, to be honest.
It is something that we do try to have some low alcohol ones. It's very difficult to get hold of a decent one. So.
Okay.
We've put it on. We did it in a cask and put it on with the portable pint, which is fantastic little business. We actually just won an award last year from. I'll cover that in a minute. But so Portable Pint is a little business run by Tony Kelly, based in Linton, close by here, Cambridgeshire. But he got an award from, I think it was the North Essex branch of CAMRA, because he's been doing these pop-up pubs. So basically, he'll take over a sort of community centre or village hall for an evening in villages that used to have a pub and sadly no longer have a pub. It's a brilliant idea. So he's been supportive of us. We've been very supportive of him, and together we've sort of we've been putting these things on. But we put that was the first time we actually had the saintly one on.
Was it the almost? Was it?
It was the almost saintly, so it was a 2.5%, but low enough, and it went down really well. They sold out, which was great for one evening. So.
Yeah. And people, I mean, people drive to these things, so it's nice they can have a few more things. So.
That's the other thing. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
What's going on with this one?
So
I've got the same here.
cheers, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, this is a lovely beer, actually. It's got a very slight, almost marzipan sweetness quality to it. Really good.
Yeah, as I say, it's one of my favourites. It's one of these beers that we've changed the recipe a little bit over the years, because I think it was a little bit had too much. What's the term you use? Top tongue?
Side tongue.
Side tongue bitterness. I just think I'd over hopped it in the initial boil. So we've reduced that, and we've added a little bit more towards the end. We use Slovenian Aurora hops, which I find they're a sort of a, what do you call it? They're a bit like the Styrian Celia or Styrian Golding, that family of hop. And they're just lovely. They've got a nice, there's a fruitiness, but there's also quite a spiciness. And I think it just brings out the character of the malts. And yeah, we're happy with the yeast we're using for this. So yeah, it's a nice one. I don't think it's going to change now. This is it for forever now, unless something amazing comes along. But no, it works for me. Cheers.
I have to say, the quality of conditioning for a bottle conditioned beer is really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's again, that's something that's taken us quite a bit of time to
see
get
that coming into the glass. It's they're really well.
That does look nice. yeah, those are going quite pretty decently as well. But yeah, it was one of those that was one of those processes that just took a little bit of time to get right. You know, it's all.
There were a few exploding bottles.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, we did. We had a one or two at the very beginning before we started selling. Mind, yeah, in my homebrew days, there were a few explosions here and there. But then, you know, you can't believe all the literature when you're a home brewer. Don't read the books that say, oh, you must put 8 grams of priming sugar in per litre. You don't need that much. As long as you've got the right temperature to condition it at, and you give it enough time, then you can use half that amount and you still get a good flavour, and you want a good carbonisation, a decent head retention, yeah, and you won't get an explosion, because that's the last thing you need. So yeah, it's a little bit. We use priming sugar. I know lots of different people use different techniques, but we find just priming sugar is pretty reliable. Use a small amount, and the carbonation tends to work.
Yeah.
And certain beers as well, if you want a nice, a good quality head retention, then we tend to use torrefied wheat in our ingredients, just because that seems to make it nice and creamy, and it sticks to the sides and does all the right things. So yeah, lots of different things that we've played with that make it work now. So
it's interesting though, because one of the beers we haven't got in the pack is a lager that we've been doing called Saffron Sun. And we have to rely on the temperature. We rely on the weather at the moment, because we don't have the facilities to do the cold storage and the cold conditioning that we need to do. So that's why we're really looking forward to moving, because we'll be able to do that a little bit more. Because at the moment, it is like, it feels a bit like being a farmer. You have to kind of look at the weather reports and then decide whether you can get away with doing a lager or not.
You know, if you know it's going to be sort of 7 or 8 degrees during the night, you can probably guarantee we'll be able to ferment it. But if it starts getting warmer, then it's like, okay, unfortunately we don't have massive refrigeration facilities, and we don't have the high-tech fermenters that we will have in a few months' time, if everything goes well, that can, we can then force the temperatures down for fermentation and for conditioning, obviously.
I think it's been it's kind of working with what we've been working with means that we've really had to learn the chemistry and the craft, I think, before you actually have the big machines that can do stuff for you. So
that's the good thing with such a small system. You can afford to make mistakes that aren't going to bankrupt you. If you do a batch of beer and it turns out to be absolute,
like our organic beer.
Well, no, it was gluten free. It's the first gluten free, yeah, and it was yeah, awful. Absolutely. We will get there. We'll probably do a gluten free at some point, but at the moment, no, that's on hold for now. But that's the thing. So we can always mess around with different things, and if it doesn't work out, you know, I'll drink it or we flush it down the toilet. You know,
gluten free is another box ticker for the beer festival, because we always try and put as many of them on as we can.
Yeah. Well, we were using sorghum. I think that's the way it's pronounced, isn't it? Yeah. Sorghum as the malt, and it just had so many weird flavors. I don't know whether they're off flavors due to issues with the fermentation process. Maybe we could use a better yeast for it. I don't know, but
it just tasted a bit chemically.
It did, yeah. It wasn't right, so we weren't prepared to sell it.
We'll try again, maybe.
I think at some point, yeah, because it ticks, like you say, it ticks boxes, and there are plenty of people out there who, you know, need gluten-free beer. So yeah, we'll get there in the end, I think. But for now, we'll open another one already.
We can move on.
Zestable will be the next one.
Yeah.
Cup, drink up.
That's gone. That took no time at all. See if I can get some Zestable.
Oh, there's the hand.
Yes.
So yes, Zestable is the next one. So kind of groovy festival design.
We disagreed on that.
Yeah, you didn't like the little dancing figures.
I didn't like the weird eyes.
I do all the artwork, and then Sarah tells me what's wrong with it, and then we negotiate, and then I just do it anyway. But yeah, so this is our the story behind Zestable is basically we wanted a beer that was light in gravity, so we wanted something that's about 3.6%, around that kind of area. And we wanted a beer that was perfect for the summer, perfect for the festivals, and obviously, as the name implies, zesty. So with American, and we also use some Australian hops in this as well. And so it's full of flavour. It's lovely and fruity, but it's light and it's very, very quaffable. The version we did first of all, which we did specifically for the beer festival, the Cambridge Beer Festival, the first one that we went on. In fact, the first beer festival we were ever put on. So thank you for that, by the way, Pete. Yeah, so we kind of designed it for that, and we got a lot of feedback. Some of it really good, some of it not so great. And so after that, we've tweaked it. We've changed the hops. We've even changed some of the malts that we use. Stuck with the yeast we started with.
So much fruitier.
And it's now, I love it. It's as it should be, but it's like V3 now. But hopefully we'll get it on at one of the festivals in the future and see what you think of it. But
just waiting for it now. It should be coming.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. But yeah, it's a tasty one, that.
I have noticed who's in the Zoom today, and I see Janet's there and talking about using food and beer together. I have to thank her. She's been feeding me cake every time I deliver beer to her that's made with our beer. And she's created a fruit cake with the Nighthawker. That is
so good, so good. Yeah. I could have some more of that.
Of course, I'm not suggesting that it has to happen every week.
But, maybe a discount on the flagons if.
That's very smooth for a zesty beer with a lot of fruit on the nose, and you get the fruity hop, but it's got a very smooth texture to it.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I'm really, as I say, really happy with this one now.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was just a little bit too bitter. You had a lingering bitterness in the first version that I think we've pretty much eradicated now, and it's just refreshing. That's the aim anyway.
But it goes much more. You can kind of taste the hops through the nose, which I really like.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, we changed around the different hops that we were using. We use Australian Summer, which is a lovely hop, it's a bit expensive, but it's worth it because it just delivers some lovely flavors. And then we use some more traditional, more sort of standard. The bittering is Columbus, and then I think we use Summit. Used to use Atanum, but we've now changed that. But anyway, it's basically a nice mixture of a lot of the American and New World hops that just seems to work now. It's a nice balance. Slightly orangey more than the traditional kind of grapefruit, I like to think, anyway.
I think leading on from the fact that we've started so small and had to get quite kind of creative, is the fact that we've ended up, I think, exposing ourselves to a much wider range of hops quite early on, because I hate to say it, we're looking for the cheap stuff. And so when it comes to the end, you know, when larger wholesalers of hops are coming to the end of a year, they'll start cutting the hops into smaller batches and making them available at reasonable prices, and we leap on those. So we've ended up with an incredible range. And of course, as soon as you open the bag, you're just thinking, oh, yeah, we can do this with this and with that. So yeah.
The other one we used for this version, the other hop we used for this, which we never used originally, is, excuse me, Sriracha Ace, which was developed by the Sapporo company and used in Sapporo, but it's just fantastic. I think I just opened the packets just because I love the smell before they even go in the beer. There's this lovely smell of it's lemon, which you expect with a lot of the New World and some of the Old World hops, but it's got this fantastic coconut and kind of coriander kind of. It's amazing. The aroma is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a hop that I came across. I didn't know much about it, but yes, you did get that coconut. That sort of thing. It's really good.
It's so unusual, you know. When you get a hop that just has something completely different, it's just, you know, you sort of start obsessing a little bit. So we're not going to overuse it, but I like to use it in our lager as well. So Saffron Sun, V2 Saffron Sun will be featuring that, as opposed to, we use a lot of German hops in that, which is more, as you would expect, Northern Brewer, Tettnang, and
so we've got something in the Q&A. It's actually from Janet. It said, happy to provide the recipes for Nighthawk fruit cake and the chocolate cake.
Hey.
Thanks for the mention. There'll be more cake next week. Thanks for keeping us hydrated during lockdown. That's from Janet.
No problem, and happy to take the recipe. Thank you very much.
If only I could have got it earlier. I could have made it, couldn't I, for Sunday?
No, we're not talking about that.
Your birthday.
Oh, well done.
Oh, we've got another birthday coming up. There's been so many birthdays during the lockdown. I mean, Dan's was the other day. It was on earlier, and yeah, there's going to be lots of parties at the end of this lockdown.
Mine was 2 weeks ago, so yeah, it's the way it goes. It's not a big celebration, but never mind. At least the weather's been decent.
Yeah, exactly. No, it makes all the difference. So, what should we try next?
Good God, you're trying to get me drunk.
Sorry.
Well, there have been packs of 6 and 8 beers going around to everybody, so obviously we won't get through all of those, but we'll try a couple.
Yeah, we can pace ourselves there.
Okay. Sorry. Beg your pardon. I was only having a dribble of that anyway.
There was definitely something in this that I thought was different from what I had it before, and it's the Sriracha is the biggest thing that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And it really sets it off nicely.
You can still get that, yeah. Yeah, it's only a small amount, but we put a little bit in dry hop with the Sriracha, which obviously brings out the aromas a little bit more, and some of those.
You obviously don't need to use a lot of this because it's coming through quite well.
Yeah. The other one we dry hopped it with is Mandarina Bavaria, which, although it's technically an old world hop, obviously made in Germany, but it's a great one. It's such a nice one, and we used to use a lot of whole leaf hops, but storage is just a real problem because, of course, we're tiny, and if you're trying to freeze your hops, or at least keep them in a refrigerator, it's impossible with the quantity that you get in the whole leaf. So, but we've made an exception for Mandarina just because I think the whole leaf, it just tastes better. It could just be me, but I really think you get a better flavour of the Mandarina if it's whole leaf. So we continue to buy that and shove it in our chest freezer. And yeah, so that's part of that.
We got a comment from Paul Brown on the chat line saying Zestful went down a treat, perfect for a hot weather day. So yeah, I'd agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
Paul Brown, I think. House.
Oh, really?
I think so. Might be
Yeah.
one of our locals. Thanks,
After
Paul. Thank
more
you.
beer. After more beer.
Oh, he's really familiar with the beer then.
I was about to tell an anecdote where Mark will regret ever being in business with his wife, but he took over the chest freezer with all of these hops, and being inexperienced, we hadn't realised how pervasive hops are. So I had bread in there, and literally for 6 months we've been eating bread that just we're eating it and going, oh, a bit of stracciatella coming through.
Yeah, that's right. Touch of Summit, a little bit of Simcoe. Yeah, it's
just gets in everything.
pungent stuff.
Yeah.
It's pungent stuff. Yeah, even when it's ziplocked and sealed, like 2 layers, it still manages to seep out. So we've got our own freezing facilities now for our hops.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have given away that you were sharing our.
Yeah, the old days.
Oh, another beer then.
What do you reckon? Are there any votes? Should we ask for a vote?
Yes.
We might say no to Nighthawker though.
Okay. How about the mild? Does anybody want the mild? Do you put your hands up on this?
Oh. Oh, David Berry wants the Nighthawker. Because that's yes.
Nighthawker, Abbey Gold.
Go Belgian.
I'm happy to go for the Abbey Gold.
Go on then.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark loves his Belgian beer.
Okay.
I do. I made this for me, not for anyone else. But other people seem to like it too. Okay, Abbey Gold then. Yep, that's this little one here. So this
What makes
is
it Belgian?
the yeast, primarily.
And what's the difference between Saison and Belgian?
Oh, come on. Well,
that's a good question for those that don't know.
it is, isn't it? Well, I mean, I may be wrong, but isn't Saison from the French Belgian region predominantly? Was it the DuPont, or was the original?
I'm no expert. I bow to your greater knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's
French farmhouse.
Yeah,
Beer.
Franco-Belge farmhouse ale.
Whereas Belgium is all about the monks, isn't it?
Well, I think Saison came about because it was the beer that was brewed for seasonal workers in that area of Belgium. So it is the Wallonian area where they speak French, and probably the other side of the border. I'm sure Northern French would have drunk Saison as well traditionally. So yeah, so I think as far as I'm aware, originally Saison was very much a golden ale, but then there've been so many different versions of it. It wouldn't have been, I expect, all that strong if it was for seasonal workers originally, but now you can get some seriously strong Saisons, but it's a lovely yeast. This, however, isn't Saison, but I don't know why we're talking about Saison.
I thought we'd wandered off a little bit, yeah.
Sorry. It was something that when we did our first Saison, I was kind of saying to Mark, well, what's the difference between that and what we're going to do with the Abbey Gold? So, yeah.
Well, so yes, so that's something to talk about, I suppose. That we've got. So this is a Belgian blonde. It's a nice drinkable. We wanted something that was going to be drinkable like you would maybe consume a Pilsner. So light, quite fruity, and relatively dry.
Off the back of the kind of the hoppiness of the Zestable, you can taste more sweetness. It's really interesting to this.
Yeah, but I love the Belgian yeast. That's the thing for me. So we used an Abbey yeast, so sort of a Trappist twist, I suppose, to a beer that's more like a refreshing kind of Pilsner, but with using that yeast in order to bring that kind of flavour to the table. So you get the esters that are kind of banana-y, and yeah, fruitier than you would normally get with most traditional English or American yeasts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that is really good.
yeah.
That's a perfect example of what you're trying to describe, the type of beer.
Yeah, that's so. It's basically, as I say, it's a beer I made for myself because I've since I was young been obsessed with Belgian ales.
We used to have to go to Belgo's in London to drink all of the Belgian ales.
Yeah, so you know, sort of Westmalle and those sort of breweries I just idolised, and the traditional Trappist beers I loved, and not just because they're ridiculously strong, but because they have such rich flavours, and the yeast is such a beautiful. It's just such a beautiful addition. So yeah, so that's basically what we did. We just wanted to do. So we were inspired by the Trappists and made this, but subsequently we decided to go for a saison. I really wanted to try to make a good saison.
Well, Jess put the idea into our minds.
Yeah,
she was saying that the elm tree would like a saison, and we were like, okay, let's go for it.
Let's figure one out.
So we made it, and then we couldn't deliver it to her.
Yeah, we literally made the first one for the elm tree in Cambridge for Jess, and unfortunately this whole thing happened, and so it was sitting there for what, 2 months or so, which probably was no bad thing because it was quite cold back then and it was nicely conditioning. And in the end, we thought, well, we started up with, it was Sarah's idea to create this kind of flagon wheels service, which is the delivery of flagons every Friday. And it was a brilliant way for us to get through all these casks that we'd, you know, started putting together for the festivals and for the pubs as the sort of summer season was approaching. So we had huge amounts of stock, which we were just sitting on. And now we've managed to get through them all. So we're now brewing to replace them and put into casks, which is actually great. But so we finally got rid of the saison by putting it on ourselves, and we got great reviews. I was really happy, really proud that it.
What was the saison called?
La Belle Saison.
Oh.
Just it was a beautiful season, and
there was a long debate over the naming.
Yeah, we were going to call it Fleur de Lis first of all, but unfortunately, it's traditionally that's more French than Belgian. So if there are any, you know, Belgian people out there or French people, they might take offence. So we decided on La Belle Saison because it works for the sort of drink that we end up making.
We'll do it again though.
We'll definitely do it again. I want it to be one of the beers that, certainly in casks, I think it would be really popular. And
our TPA is popular in casks as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, I hate to say it, we did use Sriracha Ace in it to not dry hopped, but as a late addition, because with saison you kind of want to bring out the peppery and the coriander flavors that the yeast will naturally deliver. So I found that really worked well. The Sriracha Ace with its coriandery nature really helped to complement the yeast. Yeah. So, and we also used some cracked peppercorns. Again, it was just a bit of like, chuck it in if it doesn't work. But I think it did. I think that sort of enhanced the spiciness of the yeast.
Actually used our peppercorn.
I did. I just by hand ground it up, and it worked. So yeah, we'll be doing that again, and I think it's one that will feature in our core at some point.
We should talk about the Beagle's Tail, even though we don't have one here.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing.
Sorry.
We
gave it away.
This was special for the festival that never was, but you've been able to put it out in flagons.
Yes, we it was one of the ones we brewed for the festival. We came up with an idea when I think either you or Ali mentioned the theme of the festival being the 200th year of the launch of the HMS Beagle that took Charles Darwin on his voyage. And so we thought, yeah, let's make something that sort of incorporates where he went. Thought it might be a bit naff, but it gives me a good excuse to use lots of interesting hops. So we basically did a sort of a circular system of, you know, starting off in the UK with the malts, and then going to America. So I think he went to the Americas next. I hope that's right. Otherwise, I've completely destroyed the whole point of Beagle's Tail. So we used Columbus, Amarillo, and Summit hops, which obviously American hops. And then we used Kahatu and Wakatu.
Don't ask.
Yeah, Kahatu and Wakatu hops from New Zealand, and then finally we used my favourite, which is the Summer from Australia. So it's basically a mixture of all those different hops. So very, very much a kind of a breadth of the new world hops, yeah, but with some slightly darker malts, hence the colour being a little bit more kind of reddish brown, and it's quite fruity. So unfortunately, I can't drink it with you because we sold the whole lot.
I'm really sorry about that. I know you ran out. You've taken one for the team and supplied everybody, but not left any for yourself. That's very good.
Well, I have the firkin out there. I could it might be a bit chewy. I could probably get a few lumps out, but I think maybe I won't bother with that.
Honest opinions, though. What I mean, you know, don't sugarcoat.
No, it's delicious. So is anybody else out there? If you put your hands up, has anybody else got a hold of any of the Beagle's Tail?
I hate to say it, but our regulars leapt on it, so. Ooh, Fred, thank you very much. That'd be good.
And me makes 3.
Unfortunately, we've got a bit of a following. I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately,
no, that's great.
We have a following in our local area, and they now know when we put out our carbs details, so they're on it on a Monday, and we're usually sold out by a Tuesday lunchtime. So
yeah, Beagle's Tail sold out in 2 days, wasn't it? It was a firkin, so
yeah.
We so
we've had some comments come in. So Ali Cook, Beagle's Tail is delicious. Tony Kelly, loving the Beagle's Tail. Also the Abbey Gold.
Lovely. Hey.
So
glad you're watching, Tony.
We're nearly 5 minutes from the end. Anybody else got any questions? Oh, I've got something now. So Janet Drysdale, drinking some Beagle's Tail right now, very pleasant with a lovely bitter taste. That's his Tom. So I take it that's would that be around a half?
Hey.
It was Janet that posted the question, but it said Tom at the end. So.
Oh yes.
Yes, yeah. Janet and Tom. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think is it Tom who prefers the hoppier pales, and Janet prefers the darker.
Yeah, Janet's the
Right. That makes sense. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes left. If anybody wants to post any more questions.
Oh.
That went pretty quickly, didn't it? Blimey.
It flew by, didn't it? It really flew by.
Nice. Yes.
Really good talk. Thank you.
No
it's lovely to chat with you.
Yeah. We'll be.
There's a little bit more of the
Abbey Gold.
Abbey Gold.
Oh, very good. You can have that and I'll finish the zestable.
Excellent.
Well, we know whether
If we got time for another beer, that was Bert. That's slightly ambitious in 4 minutes, but if you wanted to crack another one.
What do you reckon?
Why don't you
Hurricane?
Well, what do you fancy? Ash and Amber? Or you decide whilst I suck on this.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
What's a big shame, apart from the fact the whole festival didn't happen, which of course is the biggest shame of all, is that I didn't get to add another glass to my collection. Yeah. I'm sure Ali was looking forward to getting another design printed.
What was it going to be?
Should we go with a Nighthawker? Have you got a Nighthawker?
Yes. There we go.
Go for it.
Finish the meal with a coffee.
I'm told if there's a problem if we run over. I'm sure I checked.
Oh, I will wash that out. There you go.
Perfectly poured, I mean.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, as far as we got with glasses, we got a glass design, but we never finished it. So
Yeah, no,
it went the way it did before we put an order in. So
yeah, no, I heard. I think I read it on Twitter that I think Ali replied to someone asking, would the glasses be available? But obviously, it would have been prohibitive cost-wise to run off a batch of them just for for merch.
Yeah.
Shame.
No, yeah.
Still, Winter Festival. Fingers crossed.
yeah, in November, for anybody that's interested, that's what we're planning for. The Winter Festival will be back as it is in November. Should everything be okay by that time?
Excellent.
Brilliant, brilliant. I look forward to it. It was great last time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure everybody will be even thirstier than normal because of.
Yeah, that's.
Ali just said my garage can't fit 20,000 glasses in it.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably the case.
11th to 14th.
Yeah, the planned date for the Winter Festival is the 11th to the 14th of November. Someone's
Brilliant.
put 2020 on. Yeah, that's right.
Brilliant. Well, let's get it in our calendar.
Yeah.
So is this batch of Nighthawk slightly different to the last?
No, that's the same as it's always been.
So Janet Drysdale, one of your regulars, I think the Nighthawk has a slight ginger aftertaste. I'm enjoying today's delivery.
Brilliant.
That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking. Yeah. Does that mean we're going to get ginger cake? Sorry.
Yes, it does have a slight gingery gingery tone. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I'm assuming it's just the way that the malts have worked with the hops. Maybe a touch of the yeast, but I think we use Challenger, which is a lovely spicy, very traditional British hop. So that's probably what's bringing the ginger to it. We don't add any ginger to it. The only thing we add that's not the standard water, hops, malt, and yeast is coffee, obviously. So, but no, it's nice. I know what you mean about the ginger, definitely.
It's funny though with coffee.
It's a really good balance of the coffee as well. I mean, some can be very overpowering, some just underwhelming, but this is just spot on.
I think we adjusted it after the first go, didn't we? Did we?
Yeah,
we brought the coffee down.
Yeah, we changed it a few times, but the current recipe is one we'll stick with.
I think that was the thing, was we kind of did bring the coffee down a notch. But as coffee, people who know about coffee will say it depends on the coffee you choose as well. So
yeah, we use it's a French blend that we use, and it's a sustainable blend. So it's it seems to work, and I don't think we'll be changing it anytime soon because it's fairly popular.
I had no more questions, and I've been told I can run over by a minute, no more, which we're almost into. So just thank you for your input. That's been a really good talk, and very interesting.
Look, our little tray is empty now.
Yeah, we bashed through those. We'll just stay in the brewery until all this is gone. We've got crates of beer here as well, so.
One last question. Someone said, this is Ali Cook, will you come up with something special for CBF Winter?
Well, what's the theme? Is there a theme?
If there's a theme.
We don't do themes for the Winter Festival. It's just the winter.
No, that's right.
It's the Winter Festival. So a winter beer. We've had the Camp's Comfort work really well, but something else that's more wintry.
There you go.
I think we can.
Red berries.
I think we'll figure something out for it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a promise. We'll figure something out.
Something dark and mysterious. One final plug. We've got tomorrow. We've got our final session, which is Simon Cider. Simon Gibson will be doing a talk from 5 p.m. tomorrow. But I think that wraps it up for now.
Thanks, Pete.
Lovely. Thank you very much. It was great to be part of this.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Have a lovely rest of the festival.
Cheers. Bye.
See ya. Bye.